Hi everyone. Today I will be talking about the Kahles K18i 1:8 LPVO. Now, before I go any farther, let me state this. It is a second focal plane scope. So for all of you first focal plane only guys out there, I encourage you to stick around and don't be totally dismissive. I've had the scope for roughly 18 months. Planned on reviewing it last year, but 2020 was a bit of a crazy year. This year's been pretty busy, but I have finally gotten around to it. Now, on the plus side, having had it for 18 months and having had it for 18 months as the primary optic on my work rifle, I feel pretty well qualified to speak to the scope and its capabilities. Before I give you my opinion though, let's take a close look at some of its features. Then I'll do a bit of a comparison between it and some other optics out there on the market, and we'll talk about the reticle, and then I'll give you my closing comments.
Starting at the rear of the Kahles is a fast focus eyepiece. Pretty much the norm these days on most scopes. The one exception I can think of are the offerings from Nightforce. There's good resistance to the eyepiece, so once you have it set to your desired focus point, it should stay. The zoom or power ring is very smooth to manipulate. It also has good resistance, so once you have it set to your desired magnification point, it should stay. If you're accustomed to an American scope, where you turn the power or zoom ring clockwise to reach the top end of magnification, on the Kahles, you go counterclockwise. Let's take a closer look at the illumination dial and turrets. The illumination dial is on the left-hand side of the scope. There is a 0 denoting the off position and numerical values all the way up to 9. This is the lower illumination range. There is a definitive stopping point where the dial will click into place at 0 for when it is off, and another definitive stopping point where the dial will click into place just past 9. You can go past this upper stopping point and into the higher illumination range. What I found is 9 and below works well if you're using the scope at night, inside of a structure, at dawn or dusk, overcast days, or even in the woods. But if you want a truly daylight bright dot that you can see under the brightest of sunlight conditions, you need to go into the upper illumination range where the dot is very bright. Other than just past 9 and at 0, there are no other locking points within the illumination dial. Initially, this concerned me. My fear was, say I set it to 6 where I want it, and then the scope brushes up against my gear or something else in the environment and gets knocked off. That has not proven to be the case. There is good resistance to this dial, so once you have it set to your desired illumination point, it should easily stay in place. Let's take a look at the turrets now. They're 0.36 inches in value, and the adjustments are very positive and tactile. The turrets are simple in design. You simply loosen the screw in the top to zero out the turret to have the 0 align with the triangle indicator on the body of the scope. You do the same thing for your windage adjustments. The windage turret does not have any numerical values, however, just a series of short and long hash marks. Inside of the windage turret cap is a spare battery, so a very convenient way to ensure you always have a spare battery with you. At 11.8 inches in length, the Kahles is a larger scope. I have a few other scopes here to compare it to. The Meopta Milstar R2, the Swarovski Z6i, the ever-popular Vortex Razor, this is a Gen 1, and a Vortex Viper PST2. The Kahles is very comparable lengthwise compared to the other European scopes here, and that's kind of a trend that you see with a lot of the European offerings. They typically are a little longer. The overall length of the Kahles really stands out when compared to the Vortex Razor. It is significantly larger than the Razor. That being said, it is significantly lighter. It is a 19.5 ounce scope. When you take these two and compare them, you'll see a significant difference. The Gen 1 Razor in an ADM mount comes in at 2 pounds, 2 ounces. That's a total of 34 ounces. The much lighter weight Kahles in the ScalarWorks mount comes in at 1 pound, 9.3 ounces for a total of 25.3 ounces. That is an 8.7 ounce difference. The Kahles offers greater magnification, and it is over half a pound lighter in this mount. For me, that is a win-win combination.
Let's now talk about and take a look at the reticles for the K18i. There are two reticle choices. One is a IPSC reticle consisting of three dots that are in a vertical nature, with the center dot being illuminated. Not a lot of holdover options there, but probably a very good reticle for bay stages and things that are taking place relatively close. Then there is the three-gun reticle, which is what's in this scope. As you'll notice in the photo, there are 7 mils worth of holdover, so rather generous in my opinion for an LPVO, and the wind leads are rather generous too. You'll notice that the center dot is illuminated, with the second mil hold also being illuminated. So a pretty nice reticle all in all. And in my closing comments, I'll talk about the reticle a little bit more. I'll go ahead and wrap things up now on the Kahles K18i. I'll try to be brief. Let me start by saying that optically, this scope is very good. The only other scope I have that compares is my Swarovski Z6i, and the Swaro and the Kahles are my two favorite scopes, if for no other reason than their optical qualities. The clarity of the image through the scope, the lack of distortion, and the resolving power is very good. No complaints whatsoever. The reliability and durability of this sample of one has been amazing. I have the original Zero that I put on this scope 18 months ago. The scope rifle combo typically reside in a backpack in the back of a pickup truck, sliding and bouncing around at a minimum of 5 days a week. And then they see use a few times a week, either in training as a demo rifle or in law enforcement operations. And not once has the Zero been compromised. So a very good scope that I'm very happy with. The only criticisms I have, and they are very minor, and I don't know that I'd even call them criticisms as much as if I had the choice of things being different in the reticle, these are the changes I would make. One is the 7 mils of hold. I don't need that much in a 1:8 second focal plane LPVO. That gets me well out past 600 yards, and if I need to be shooting at 600 or beyond, there are better scopes. Scopes with more magnification and scopes that allow me the ability to hold at least half a mil, if not more, so I can more precisely aim. So that's one slight change I'd like to see made. I really like the reticle in the Swarovski Z6i, the BRT reticle, which is a 5 mil version of this reticle. I think it's a little less cluttered and probably a little more realistic for a 1:8 scope. Second would be the two dots that are illuminated inside the reticle. I don't mind the second illuminated dot. It doesn't distract me, but if I were given a choice of having it or not having it, I would choose to not have it. Some people like to use it as a holdover dot when they're in close to deal with line of sight, line of bore. I don't run my LPVOs that way, so I don't need it. So two minor criticisms. Not enough to keep me from purchasing the scope because I have purchased this one. So not that big of a deal. The biggest criticism I see levied against the Kahles is its price. It is not a cheap scope. There is no doubt about that. But you get what you pay for, and if you want this degree of optical quality, then it's going to cost you. So if you get a chance, check out the Kahles K18i, and you may find, like I did, that it is a scope worthy of your consideration. Until next time, you all stay safe. Take care.